Welcome to Deep Dive Lab, where we break down and dissect cutting-edge scientific research, from advanced biomedical technologies to breakthroughs in AI, material science, chemistry, and physics, all told as compelling, easy-to-follow stories.
Yeah, we try to make the dense stuff, actually fun to listen to.
Exactly. So, I want you to picture this for a second. You're sinking into your couch after a long day, right?
Right.
And you pull out your phone to run some high-end video game, or maybe you've got your laptop actually resting on your legs and you're crunching some heavy AI task for work.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Right. 10 minutes pass, and what happens? Your device suddenly sounds like a jet engine preparing for takeoff.
Yep, the fans are just absolutely screaming.
The fans are screaming, your battery life is visibly plummeting, and the bottom of the device gets just uncomfortably, almost burningly hot against your skin. It is, frankly, infuriatingly annoying.
It really is. And, that burning sensation on your legs is actually the physical manifestation of a massive bottleneck in modern technology.
Really? Just a bottleneck?
Yeah, because heat is the great enemy of electronics. And we are currently feeling the physical limit of computers just, struggling to keep up with the sheer data demands we're putting on them.
Which brings up a question that seems, simple on the surface, but is incredibly complex underneath.
Go for it.
Here's a strange question. Why can't our computers just think faster without melting down? Like, why is heat the ultimate speed limit for our devices?
Well, we are looking at a fascinating paper published in the journal Science in May of 2026 that actually solves this exact mystery.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So Dr. Hanshin Sai, Dr. Satoru Nakatsuji, and their research team over at the University of Tokyo, they've discovered the secret to an entirely new way of building computer memory.
And it doesn't get hot.
Right. It operates at mind-boggling speeds, and crucially, it stays completely cool.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we get to how they solved it, I really want to understand the bottleneck itself. Like, when my laptop is cooking my legs, what is physically happening inside that chip to generate so much heat?
Right, because at a fundamental level, computer memory is just switching physical states, right?
Exactly, zeros and ones.
Yes. And to do that without losing all your data every time the power turns off, what we call non-volatile memory engineers rely on a field called spintronics.
Spintronics. Sounds very sci-fi.
It does, but it's really just using actual magnetic states to save information instead of just a temporary electrical charge. You can visualize each bit of memory as a microscopic compass needle.
Okay.
So you point the magnetic needle up, the computer reads a 1, point it down, it reads a 0.
And historically, we've built those tiny compass needles out of ferromagnets, right?
We have. Ferromagnets are just your standard everyday magnets, like the ones holding grocery lists to your refrigerator.
Right, right.
In a ferromagnet, all the microscopic atomic magnetic moments point in the exact same direction. So it creates this strong collective magnetic field.
So if the goal is to make computers process information faster, logic dictates we just need to flip those ferromagnetic compass needles up and down faster, like to speed up the flip.
Engineers have spent decades trying to do just that, but they crashed into something called the nanosecond wall.
The nanosecond wall.
Yeah. Currently, processing speeds for this kind of permanent memory are stuck in the nanosecond regime, which is a billionth of a second.
Which sounds fast.
It does sound fast, but to keep up with the explosion of artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things, we desperately need to push into the picosecond timescale.
And a picosecond is?
A trillionth of a second. That is 1,000 times faster than a nanosecond.
Wow. A trillionth of a second. I mean, the human brain can barely comprehend a slice of time that thin. But wait, why can't we just push the magnet harder? Send more electricity to force the flip.
Because the physics of ferromagnets violently resist being rushed.
Violently.
Yeah. When you try to force that collective block of aligned magnetic atoms to reverse direction in a trillionth of a second, you trigger a massive physical pushback.
Oh, I see.
To overcome that resistance, you have to blast the material with a colossal surge of electrical current, and that leads to severe Joule heating.
Okay, I hear the term Joule heating tossed around a lot in tech circles, but break down the actual mechanism for me. What is, happening to the electricity?
Think of an electrical current as a massive crowd of people in this case, electrons trying to sprint down a narrow hallway.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
When you force too many of them through too quickly, they start violently slamming into the walls and crashing into each other.
Like a stampede.
Exactly. At the atomic level, those collisions create intense friction, and that friction manifests as extreme heat. So when you blast a ferromagnet with enough current to flip it in a single picosecond, those electron collisions generate so much thermal energy that the demagnetization process literally cooks the device from the inside out.
It's like trying to flip a light switch in your house faster and faster, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Like eventually, to get the absolute microscopic speed you want, you can't just use your finger. You have to hit the switch with a sledgehammer. But then the sledgehammer just breaks the wall and sets the whole house on fire.
That is a phenomenal analogy. You are applying brute force to a bulk system that physically cannot handle the kinetic stress.
Sledgehammer to a light switch. Got it.
And this heat death of the memory cell seemed like an absolute hard physical limit. Speeding up permanent memory into the picosecond range was widely considered just, well, impossible because of that massive energy requirement and the resulting fire hazard.
So how did scientists figure this out without burning the metaphorical house down? This is where the story gets interesting.
Right, so the University of Tokyo team realized the solution wasn't to build a stronger sledgehammer. The solution was to change the fundamental structure of the switch itself.
Okay, so what did they build the switch out of?
They completely abandoned standard ferromagnets. Instead, they created a submicrometer-sized device using a very specific layered structure.
Meaning?
They took a heavy metal called tantalum and layered it with a highly complex material called manganese tin, or Mn₃Sn.
Manganese tin. Okay, a manganese tin is not a normal magnet. Like the paper refers to it as a chiral antiferromagnet.
Yes.
Which is a mouthful. But, I mean, just the prefix anti makes it sound like it actively pushes back against being magnetized.
It doesn't really push back, but it does cancel itself out.
Cancels itself out.
Yeah, remember how in a standard ferromagnet, all the atomic compass needles point perfectly in the same direction?
Right, like the fridge magnet?
Exactly. Well, in an antiferromagnet like manganese tin, the manganese atoms are arranged in a highly intricate geometric pattern called a kagome lattice.
Oh, a kagome lattice. I've actually seen that term before.
Mm.
It's named after those traditional Japanese woven bamboo baskets, right? Where the strips form interlocking triangles and hexagons.
You got it. That intricate woven pattern is the key to everything. In physics, when you place magnetic atoms in a triangular arrangement, they experience something called geometric frustration.
Geometric frustration. This sounds like me trying to put together flat-pack furniture.
It is remarkably similar, honestly. Imagine 3 magnetic atoms at the points of a triangle. Magnetic forces naturally want to align opposite to their neighbors to find a stable resting state. But in a triangle, if atom A and atom B point in opposite directions, atom C is completely frustrated.
Oh, because it's caught in the middle.
Right. It can't be opposite to both of them at the same time. So the atoms are forced to compromise. They settle into a complex, rotating pattern where their individual magnetic forces perfectly cancel each other out on a macroscopic level.
That is wild. So because of this geometric compromise, if I were to hold a piece of this manganese tin in my hand, it wouldn't stick to my refrigerator.
It wouldn't stick to anything. From the outside, it appears completely magnetically quiet. It has a vanishingly small net magnetization.
Okay, wait, I have to stop you there. This raises a massive logical problem.
Oh.
Yeah, because the entire point of computer memory is reading a magnetic up or down as a 1 or 0. If this material is magnetically quiet on the outside, how does the computer actually read the data? Isn't it essentially invisible to the microchip?
You are hitting on the exact reason antiferromagnets were ignored by engineers for decades.
Because you can't read them.
It seems impossible to read them. But scientists recently discovered that while the material is quiet on the outside, that rich, complex, interlaced magnetic structure still exists on the inside.
Okay, so how do you look inside?
When you pass a tiny, gentle reading current of electrons through the manganese tin, those electrons act like little scouts.
How so?
Because of something called the anomalous Hall effect.
Another great sci-fi name.
Right. As the electrons travel through that complex woven lattice, their paths are actually deflected and curved by the internal magnetic spins, even without an outward magnetic field.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and this subtle deflection changes the electrical resistance of the material. So the computer simply measures that tiny shift in resistance to determine if the lattice is holding a 0 or a 1.
Oh, that is incredibly clever. So instead of looking at the outward color of the wood, the computer is running its hand over the surface to read the direction of the grain.
That captures the concept perfectly. And because of that internal complexity, the researchers were able to trigger a change in the state at unprecedented speeds.
How fast?
Well, they hit the layered device, the tantalum and the manganese tin, with an electrical pulse lasting a mere 40 picoseconds.
40 trillionths of a second. That
Yeah.
is just a microscopic whisper of electricity.
And the device flawlessly switched its binary state.
Really? No sledgehammer required.
None. It didn't do it through that brute force demagnetization that ferromagnets demand. It used an elegant physical mechanism known as spin-orbit torque.
Spin-orbit torque. Okay, I'm going to need a breakdown of that because it sounds like orbital mechanics in space, not computer memory. How does that mechanism actually work?
Let's unpack it. So the bottom layer of this device is tantalum, which is a heavy metal.
Right.
Heavy metals have massive atomic nuclei. When the 40 picosecond electrical pulse enters the tantalum, the strong pull of those heavy nuclei forces the passing electrons to link their physical movement, their orbit, with their quantum magnetic orientation.
Which is their spin.
Exactly, known as their spin.
So the heavy metal acts like a filter or like a choreographer for the electricity.
It acts as a highly efficient polarizer. It takes a chaotic crowd of electrons and organizes them into a spin current.
A spin current?
Yeah, a synchronized wave of electrons that are all spinning in the exact same orientation. And this specialized wave flows up into the manganese tin layer.
And what happens when that synchronized wave hits the woven bamboo basket structure?
The electrons transfer their angular momentum, like the actual physical force of their spin, directly into the Kagome lattice.
Oh.
And because the lattice is geometrically frustrated and already poised in this delicate balance, it doesn't take much force to nudge it.
Ah, I see.
The wave of spin current gently but firmly rotates the entire complex internal structure from one state to another.
So to go back to our analogies, instead of smashing a locked door with a sledgehammer to get inside, you're sending in a highly specialized, perfectly shaped wave of tumblers that simply slide into the lock and turn the mechanism with almost zero friction.
That is exactly the distinction between brute force demagnetization and spin orbit torque. And because this transfer of angular momentum is so highly efficient, the power consumption required to make the flip is several orders of magnitude lower than standard ferromagnets.
Which means no heat.
Practically none. The researchers ran exhaustive computer simulations and real-world testing. They found that during this 40 picosecond switching process, the temperature of the device rose by no more than 10 Kelvin.
10 Kelvin. That is barely a room temperature fluctuation.
Exactly.
No melting chips, no fire, no screaming jet engine cooling fans required.
And the lack of thermal damage translates to staggering physical endurance.
Oh, because it's not cooking itself every time it flips.
Right. The research team injected over 100 billion Wright pulses, that is 10 to the 11th power, into this tiny device.
Wow.
And after 100 billion high-speed picosecond flips, there was zero degradation. The structure performed just as flawlessly on the 100 billionth flip as it did on the first.
That is unbelievable. So we have a memory cell that flips in a trillionth of a second, uses almost zero power, and stays completely cool.
Yep.
I mean, that alone seems like a monumental victory for material science. But reading through the paper, they take this a massive step further.
They do.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the power threshold is so low, they stop using electrical wires to trigger the switch altogether. They use light.
The miraculously low power requirement basically opened a door that tech engineers have been trying to pry open for years.
Okay, explain the light part.
The researchers used a laser operating at a 1.55 micrometer telecommunication wavelength to generate a tiny 60 picosecond optical pulse.
Okay.
And that pulse of light alone was enough to flip the magnetic memory state.
Wait, let me play the skeptic for a second. We spend billions of dollars perfecting microchips with microscopic gold and copper wiring to conduct electricity. Why are we suddenly shining lasers at a computer chip? Aren't computer parts supposed to be wired together? Like, what business does light have inside a physical hardware component?
What's fascinating here is that bridging the gap between light and physical hardware is the holy grail of modern computing design.
Really? Why?
Well, we have to look at the massive performance gap in our global technology infrastructure. Think about how the internet actually functions. How does data cross the Atlantic Ocean?
Through thousands of miles of fiber optic cables laid across the ocean floor.
Yes, photonic circuits, light traveling through glass. And those fiber optic networks transmit data at blistering speeds, operating at bandwidths around 100 gigahertz. Light is the ultimate speed demon for moving information over long distances.
Right, nothing in the universe is faster.
But here is the devastating bottleneck. When that data traveling at light speed finally arrives at a data center or reaches the processor in your computer, it hits a wall.
Oh, because it's not light anymore.
Exactly. The optical signal has to be converted back into standard electronic signals so the physical hardware can process it and save it. And standard electronic memory chips max out at just a few gigahertz.
Okay, I see the problem. It's like having a high-speed bullet train carrying thousands of passengers at 200 miles an hour.
Right.
But when the train arrives at the station, there's only one exit door, and every single passenger has to stop and fill out a paper customs form in cursive before they are allowed to leave the terminal.
That is a very vivid way to picture it, but yeah.
The transportation is incredibly fast, but the translation process at the destination causes a massive, sprawling traffic jam.
That captures the frustration of network engineers beautifully. The tech industry desperately needs highly efficient optical to electrical conversion.
Flash E conversion, yeah.
We need digital turnstiles that can take a signal moving at light speed and instantly save it into physical hardware without slowing the train down.
And this Mn₃Sn device acts as that turnstile.
Yeah.
But how does the mechanism actually work? Because you can't physically push a magnetic lattice with a beam of light. Photons don't have mass in that way.
Right, you push it by using the light to generate a localized burst of energy.
Oh.
Remember the 1.55 micrometer wavelength laser?
Yeah.
That specific wavelength is used in telecommunications because it travels perfectly through glass. But when that laser pulse hits the heavy metal tantalum and the manganese tin on the chip, the material absorbs the photons.
Okay.
This instantaneous absorption generates a tiny photocurrent, a localized burst of excited electrons in heat.
Ah. So the light hits the chip and instantaneously creates its own little wave of electricity right there on the spot.
Yes, that instantaneous photocurrent generates just enough spin current to trigger the spin orbit torque we discussed earlier.
Wow.
The light acts as the ultimate low-power trigger. You beam a photon at the chip, and it instantly translates that optical signal into a saved physical magnetic state on the chip.
It seamlessly connects the 100 gigahertz world of fiber optics with the physical non-volatile memory of a computer chip, all at the picosecond timescale.
Exactly.
It is stunning. It's one of those rare scientific discoveries where multiple complex mechanisms, geometric frustration, spin orbit torque, optical absorption, they all just perfectly align to solve an engineering nightmare.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the timing of this discovery is critical for our society's infrastructure.
How so?
We're moving into an era where AI models require literal acres of servers to train, and the Internet of Things is putting a smart chip in every appliance and vehicle on the planet.
And all of that requires power, which brings us right back to my burning hot laptop on the couch.
Heat is just wasted energy.
Right.
And it is a looming crisis. Data centers are consuming terrifying amounts of electricity, and a massive percentage of that energy isn't even used for computing. It's used to pump millions of gallons of water through cooling systems so the servers don't melt.
That's crazy to think about.
So this discovery paves the way for ultra-fast, non-volatile memory. This means memory that doesn't lose data when the power turns off, operates at light speed, and uses almost no energy.
To really drive home how efficient this is, the researchers ran the numbers on what happens when you shrink this technology down, right?
They did. They calculated the theoretical limits of the mechanism. If they can scale this manganese tin device down to a tiny dot measuring just 30 by 30 by 10 nanometers.
Which is roughly the microscopic scale of components crammed onto today's most advanced microchips.
At that incredibly small scale, they hypothesized the device could process a single bit of data using only 1 femtojoule of energy.
A femtojoule.
Mm-hmm.
We went from nanoseconds to picoseconds, and now we are at femtojoules.
It's hard to wrap your head around.
For context, a femtojoule is 1/quadrillionth of a joule. It is a measurement of energy so profoundly small it is almost abstract. The amount of physical energy a mosquito uses to flap its wing just one single time is vastly more than a femtojoule.
It is an almost incomprehensibly small amount of power. It means we are looking at a horizon where we can process global data thousands of times faster than today without generating any meaningful heat, completely transforming the energy landscape of computing.
So what does this all mean for you as you listen to this? If you're wondering how this complex physics paper impacts the devices in your home, there are 3 key takeaways.
Lay them out.
First, scientists have successfully shattered the nanosecond speed limit in computer memory. We have officially entered the picosecond era.
A huge milestone.
Second, we didn't achieve this by forcing more electrical current into standard magnets. We did it by ditching standard magnets for a weird, complex antiferromagnet that flips its state by elegantly rotating its internal lattice, staying completely cool in the process.
That Kagome lattice magic.
Exactly. And finally, because it requires such a tiny whisper of power to make that flip, we can now use lasers to write data directly to the chip, bridging the massive gap between light-speed data transmission and physical hardware.
You know, what stands out to me the most about this deep dive is the broader philosophical reflection it offers.
Oh, like what?
Well, when science hit the nanosecond wall, the initial instinct was to push harder, to blast the old materials with a bigger sledgehammer of electrical power. But the solution wasn't brute force.
No, it just caused fires.
Right. The answer was to look for a more elegant internal structure. The woven canceling lattice of manganese tin solved a problem that sheer force couldn't touch.
Elegance over brute force. It's a great reminder that working smarter applies even at the atomic level.
And this raises an important question, I think, to leave the listeners with.
Go for it.
If this staggering, world-changing potential was hiding inside an antiferromagnet, a material that most people would completely ignore because it doesn't even stick to a piece of metal, what might scientists uncover next when they look closely at materials that, on the outside, appear completely magnetically quiet?
Oh, that's a great point.
What other elegant structures are hiding in plain sight, just waiting for the right kind of pulse to wake them up?
That is a brilliant thought to end on. It really makes you realize how much of the universe's potential is just waiting for us to figure out the right way to look at it. Well, thank you for joining us today at Deep Dive Lab. We hope that after exploring the microscopic, ultrafast, perfectly cool world of antiferromagnets, you are sitting there thinking, wow, I didn't know science could be this interesting.
It really is.
Be sure to follow and subscribe for more science stories. Until next time, stay curious.